Wednesday, June 23rd. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight,
Let's do this.
So this weekend was a burning weekend. We got the crew together, played our burning wheel. We finally dropped that long-running epic Roman politics campaign to play something more birthed in Burning Wheel as opposed to originally birthed in D&D. I think it worked really well.
Yeah, it was a pretty good game going on. I just, I wish it wasn't so humid and I didn't get a headache and sort of pass out.
I felt so
through.
bad for Scott. The game was going strong and he was being all spidery, and then about halfway through, he kind of laid down and never got back up.
It's like I was like, I don't want to lay down. I shouldn't lay down. I know laying down is like, the bad move, but it was just so blah. And Alex, I know he has that really powerful air conditioner. That would have worked. He just didn't want to put it in.
He never uses that thing. I'm surprised.
The thing is so ridiculously powerful. It has so many BTUs. It would have been, but he didn't use it. And so, not, and it wasn't just because of the heat. I was feeling blah earlier, and it was just compounding my blah.
But I had probably the best duel of wits I've ever had. I used Ugly Truth. I'm proud of that.
Oh, you duel of wits Jess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was pretty epic.
That was all right.
But, after the game, the next day, we're hanging out with the crew like we always do. And, people leave at different times. And half the crew had left, and half the crew was still around. And Kate and Adam takes the dogs outside.
Oh, right.
For a walk. Yeah, you forgot about what happened over the weekend. Because I was like, I got something to talk about. And you were like, all right, I got nothing.
I knew there was something. I just couldn't forget what it was.
So Adam's out there, and he yells.
I couldn't remember what it was.
He yells from the outside downstairs, down from the deck, "Hey, Rim, somebody left an alligator skull down here."
What?
No, I think it's an entire alligator head.
What?
You got to come see this.
First of all, we're not in Florida, so this makes no sense.
Second, I'm expecting to see, like, a deer skull or a stick shaped vaguely like an alligator head or, I don't know, just a piece of garbage. But I walk out there, and I see this thing. So we go up to it, and he's like, "That's an alligator skull." And I'm like, I don't know. So he grabs a stick, he flips it over. It's a fucking alligator head.
It's not even just the skull. It's like the full head. It's got an eyeball. It's got teeth. It's got skin. It's got all sorts of business going on. It's a full-on alligator's head, like cut off right behind the eyes.
It was definitely real, too. Absolutely. It was taxidermy because it had a glass eye, but that was definitely a real alligator.
Yeah, it was clearly, it's like, it was so weird. It was like, okay, there's no way that this is actually an alligator that died back here because it's not Florida, but it was taxidermied alligator head made its way into our backyard, and it wasn't like we couldn't find the rest of the alligator.
The thing is, the head was cut off, like sawed off cleanly, and the spine and everything was still in there, like the spine. Like, oh my god,
it was pretty nasty.
But it was sawed clean off, and the head was facing forward from this old wooden fence. So we all kind of climb up onto the fence and look over, not really expecting an alligator body, but kind of expecting one.
But there was not an alligator body over there.
We looked around. I went back there later, and there's no alligator body.
It's like, how did it get back there? It's like our backyard is basically non-existent.
And no one goes back there.
No one goes there.
It had to have been there for the entirety of the years that we've been living here. There is no way
I don't know if it was there for the entirety of the years.
But then how would it have gotten there? Who would have put it there? How... It looked...
There's no knowing how it got there, but regardless, there is an alligator head that was in the backyard, and we threw it out, and I have pictures of it.
The neighbor lady comes out, and she's like, "What are you guys all looking at?" And we're like, "There's an alligator head behind the house." And she's like, "I don't know anything about that."
I think she put it there. She's covering it up.
The fact that it was cut off so cleanly.
It was very strange.
Now, of course, my second thought after that's an alligator head, well, I guess my third thought, because my second thought was it has a glass eye. The third thought was Draco Lich?
What?
Maybe Arch Lich?
My thought was, how the fuck did it get there? And I still don't know, and I probably never will.
So that was our weekend. Burning Wheel and an alligator head.
Yep.
We took some pictures of it. We'll put them online at some point just to prove it. No one would believe us unless we had pictures.
Pixar didn't happen.
Yep, well, we've got pics. It happened.
That's right.
So what do you got? It's Tuesday. Video games.
All right, video games. Let's see. Oh, right. Well, first of all, I want to say that
Was that a real pause, or did you actually forget what you were going to say?
I didn't forget anything.
Okay.
So, System Shock 2 is an old game
Yeah,
that I never played.
Until now, you and Water is Poison, I think, are playing it up.
Yeah, because it's got co-op, right? It's like, whoa, this old FPS is co-op, and that's kind of what I'm dying for, is some co-op FPS. And the thing is, it's mostly a RPG FPS more than a co-op FPS. But playing it, it's like, I played Bioshock first, so now playing System Shock 2, it's like, oh, wow. Bioshock was a lot more like System Shock 2 than I realized. Which, makes sense, but, I didn't know the connections because I hadn't played both of them. But it's if you haven't played the System Shock 2, it'll run on pretty much almost any computer that's modern. So, and you're not going to be able to buy it legitimately, so just get it off the internet for free. It's not difficult. And if you can, play it co-op. And the interesting thing about playing a co-op, right, is that the game doesn't give you any more stuff. So it's like you have to divide the ammo between, all the people playing evenly, which kind of, or you can hoard it all if you're an asshole. So it kind of sucks in that regard. But in terms of, you get these upgrade modules as you complete quests and such. So everyone upgrades a whole shit ton. So it's like you're wicked powerful, because normally it's like if you were playing the one-player game, you'd have to concentrate on, say, psychic powers or hacking or military skills. We're playing, I got all the military skills and he's got all the hacking skills, so it's like, hey, we're maxing it out here. And it's pretty good.
Yeah.
We're almost done, whatever. Also, this Friday, I think, if not late Thursday, Blood Bowl is coming out for the PC. Now here's the story behind this Blood Bowl. Way back in the day, Games Workshop, the makers of Warhammer, made a game called Blood Bowl. And Blood Bowl...
It's football.
It's a football game, but you kill people, so it's sort of like football Warhammer. But it was cool because it was like you get all the good of a miniatures Warhammer type game without the collectingness. You just buy this one box, it has Blood Bowl in it, and that's it. And it was, but you get... It's Warhammer-like gaming. So... they made a Blood Bowl video game back in the 90s that was all DOS styling. But then another company unofficially and illegitimately made a game called Chaos League, right? And they got in trouble. Hey, you don't do that. But then, unlike every other stupid company in the world, they made nice. And now the people who made Chaos League, who are obviously Blood Bowl fans, are making the official Blood Bowl game, and it's coming out for the PC on Friday. And it's all, in addition to being, having the turn-based Blood Bowl gameplay, it also has a real-time Blood Bowl gameplay that I assume is more like Madden-ish kind of game. I don't know. The video trailer is not really helping me out here. They're also coming out with DS and PSP Blood Bowls that are a lot like the original board game. So, the game's kind of expensive to buy, the board version. It's like $75
It's kind of hard to find.
Oh, no, you can just buy it online easily.
I don't know. At least in person, because I remember at RIT...
I can just go to the Games Workshop store in the city. They got it.
True. Remember at RIT, they had like 3 sets of it at RWAG.
Well, Millennium had like 3 sets, and they were always just sitting there. No one bought it.
Yeah.
Anyway, you got to go to a gaming store to get it. You're not going to find it anywhere else.
It's not going to be a Toys R Us.
Yeah, that's for sure. But the video game is $50. So if you think of it, that's sort of a steal. Especially since you're getting the board game and another game and all these graphics and such and such. I don't think it's going to be on Steam, though, which is sort of like bleh. But it is going to be, downloadable somehow through whatever freaking service they're using. I think my strategy is I'm going to wait like a few days, wait probably till the next week, see how people receive the game, see if they like it or not, and if there's enough people playing it so that I can actually, get the game on against people often enough, then I'll buy it. Otherwise, I'll wait until it's much less expensive, or I'll just get the DS one, and just play that with the local multiplayer against people.
We'll see. I mean, the DS, more and more, the DS just can't have the complex kind of games I want.
Well, it's basically, I looked at the screenshots. The DS one's not going to be out for a lot longer. It's not coming out on Friday. But the DS one, it looks like it's just Blood Bowl, just like the board game, only on the DS. So, yeah, can't really go wrong.
I've only actually played Blood Bowl, the board game, once, and I didn't even play it all the way through.
Yeah, it's basically the way it works is you have the basic rules are like this, right? You have so many players, right? But only 11 can be on the field at once because it's football. And every turn, each guy can perform an action. And the actions are like move, block,
Kill.
Block is fight. Pass, right? But then there are certain special actions, right? And on your turn, you can only do one special action with one dude, so it's like everyone on your whole team does one of the normal actions and one guy can do a special action. It could be any guy, so you can have like this guy do the special action or that guy. It's not like only the quarterback can do the special action, and you just do this every turn, and then there's some dice and some other charts and things, like if you move and if you move near enemies, they can try to trip you and all this sort of stuff, but that's how the game is played. So it's, it's pretty good as far as miniature turn-based strategy games go, plus football.
But speaking of games that are coming out, we didn't talk about this as much as I would have expected because it got announced when we weren't really doing video game shows. We were kind of in this in-between period for various reasons, but NS2 is actually coming, for real.
Oh,
the pre-orders
shit.
were announced a while ago. You can go right now, spend money, pre-order, and all I know is that I looked to see if we had talked about this as a news. I didn't remember. And I saw that the last time we noted that we talked about natural selection was in 2006 when NS2 announced that they might have dynamic infestation.
So we're going to have to go over this whole thing again, basically. Natural Selection 1 is an awesome Half-Life mod that's an RTS and an FPS at the same time, and
we
it
don't
actually
need
works.
to explain that. We did a whole
I just
show
finished
on
the
it.
explanation.
We did a whole show on it. NS2 is pretty much the only game I've been looking forward to since Team Fortress 2.
Yeah, and especially since Team Fortress 2 was up, right?
Well, Team Fortress 2 was awesome up until the moment I took my first step as a player in the game. At that moment, I was vaguely disappointed, and I became extremely disappointed.
Team Fortress 2 is like wow to me. It's like the game itself, the gameplay, complete poop, but many humorous things result, like Leroy Jenkins and, Meet the Whoever.
Well, the thing is, oh my God, Meet the Spy was pretty damn good. I got to admit.
Right.
It was better than the everything since Meet the Heavy.
Oh, I like the engineer one.
It was okay.
Anyway.
But NS2 is probably going to be the most important FPS to come out since the re-release of Quake 3.
Yes, not only is NS2, first of all, it's on its own engine, right? It's not using the Half-Life engine or the Source engine or anything. Secondly, the system requirements are really low, so everyone can play. Number 3,
seriously, 1.2 gigahertz processor, 200
you might be able to play it in a netbook if you got a GPU.
256 megabytes of RAM, DirectX 9, a mouse, a keyboard,
Right, okay.
internet access.
It's going to be
Windows.
super moddable with Lua. If you don't know what Lua is, it's basically a scripting language that's mad easy. People are going to be modding the fuck out of this game.
Well, more importantly, the team behind it, these people, we're not to tell the whole story here, but NS1 was a game that had a niche. It wasn't super popular outside of people who got it. It has a very small community that is extremely dedicated, much like not Quake Arena. Quake Arena is basically dead. But like Mega TF or Weapons Factory or Tribes 2 now, there's these little groups of people that play it and no one else does. But the people who made NS get it. They understand what it is to make a unique and different and amazing game, more so than other people I have seen. Natural Selection is one of the greatest games ever made, and NS2, even if they deliver on less than half of what they claim to deliver on, it's still going to be the best FPS ever.
Probably, it looks like it.
At least the best not even asymmetric, because I think it'll be the best versus FPS ever made.
Quite possibly. I mean, Counter-Strike and Tribes 2 are up there, but
I can't put it in the same category as like Half-Life. Single player is a totally different thing.
Yeah. No, but I mean, some of the changes that I heard about are, they're doing, first of all the graphics are updated, right?
They look real good if the teaser trailer is to be believed.
Yeah, but, they're doing a lot. First of all, the alien is going to have a commander, which is good and bad, sort of.
I kind of, see, on one hand, I think that's crap. I liked the hive mind, asymmetric, whatever, but at the same time, I really trust these guys' judgment.
Yeah. Also, the Ono Stomp is going to disable structures and such temporarily. So we could like stomp on the IP, and the IP will stop spinning. Apparently, the new IP spins.
Basically, what I think they're doing is they were really ambitious with NS1, and they basically pushed Half-Life 1 as far as they could.
Yep.
And all the stuff they didn't do, they wanted to do, they just knew that the game, they'd already reached the limit. I mean, Babblers never worked.
Yeah, I mean, basically, like, these guys are great at taking a small amount of resources and pushing them to the max. I mean, their Half-Life 1 mod looks as good as a lot of better than Half-Life 2 mods that are out there. It's so good. But so the that's why it has such low system requirements, because they have the skills to be able to push really hard and make it really awesome.
But also, they're
without
not
needing lots of, fancy shit.
They're not like taking the original game and just like going crazy now that they have resources and they're doing it on their own and all this stuff. They're, as far as I can tell, they're basically doing all the things that they wanted to do originally but couldn't, just due to limitations of technology.
Yeah, they're also the infestation is going to spread. I don't know how it will spread, but it's going to spread in some way, and then you can use flamethrowers to push it back.
Well,
or you can close bulkheads to sort of just seal it back.
Well, one thing about NS that made it great was that it was primarily an area control game, but area control was either siege points, choke points, or resource towers.
Mm-hmm.
But now with this infestation, area control takes on a much more visceral feeling.
It's a lot more Zergish on the bad guys, on the alien side.
Plus, just,
not bad guys. You could be the aliens, then they'd be the good guys.
The natural selection team, Unknown Worlds, they breached this balance between atmosphere, aka realism, and gameplay that I've never seen anyone ever come close to. Games usually decide between being atmospheric and immersive or being a good, straight up, competitive game.
Yeah, like Quake is really good game. It's gameplay is all about.
But there's no atmosphere.
There's no atmosphere in Quake. it barely feels like But say Half-Life, well, Half-Life has good gameplay, but not multiplayer-wise.
Yep, Counter-Strike did a pretty good job of giving up some of the realism to make the game playable and fun.
Mm-hmm.
Action Quake was not in any way realistic and had very little atmosphere, but it was real fun.
Yep.
But NS2, they never sacrificed gameplay for style or vice versa, but they maxed both of them out.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
I'm
really going to make a concerted effort to make mods of NS2. I've never really done the mods big time, but NS2, we're going to mod that shit.
First mod, Babblers.
First mod, We're going to do all the obvious mods. Gorge, no animation jump, classic mode.
Gorge race.
Combat, Gorge race, Babblers.
Oh,
Lurk
Babblers.
lift.
Fucking love Babblers. But anyway, just, be aware, we don't advertise or anything on Geeknights, but you can pre-order NS2, and you can either spend $20 or twice as much as that. And you don't get anything different if you spend more, other than that you held these people out, and you get black armor.
Ooh. It's
and
actually
the beta and the alpha.
Yeah. It's actually sort of, I needed to pay the $40. If we're going to mod it, we're going to need to get in as early as possible.
Yep.
But also, it's interesting to see that the vast majority of the pre-orders they didn't say, I didn't see how many there were, but they said the vast majority, percentage-wise, of pre-orders were the $40.
Well, think about it. Who is pre-ordering this game but the existing NS community, which is, in my opinion, the closest knit online gaming community left.
Really, the survival of the game, though, depends on the long tail of people buying the $20 version, after it's released.
But even if only all the current NS1 players buy it, and then Unknown Worlds goes out of business, the game exists, and these people will play NS for the rest of their lives.
Probably.
And you might scoff at that, but I really, yeah.
Yeah.
But I got one more announcement because it is a Tuesday, and unlike other conventions
you don't
we
see
do,
that every day.
Thank God. This convention is a lot more gamey. We are going to be at Connecticon at the Hartford Convention Center in Hartford, Connecticut.
The final weekend of July. That's also August.
July 31st, August 1st, August 2nd, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Sunday. Oh shit, gonna get
Can't say that. We're gonna be doing a couple of panels there. Let's see. We're doing Good Morning Connecticon, Bite-Sized Anime, Illusions Would Be Fun, Beyond Dungeons and Dragons.
Don't do this.
Conceptual Game Design, Action Castle, Surviving the Mecha Attack, Beyond Candyland, Comics for the Manga Reader,
that
Tales
is
of the Anime
just
Club,
our
Comics Around
room.
the World,
And no one else is in this room but us for the entire convention. So
there is a Geeknights panel room. Now, we have gotten ourselves. We are doing like 11 panels, just me and Scott. Also, we have the front row crew doing a whole bunch of panels, like a Burning Wheel character burning workshop, geekology, geek research, independent game development, all this sort of stuff. We have also got Luke Crane, the guy who did Burning Wheel and all that, and Jared Sorensen, the guy who did Action Castle and all that.
Inspectors
Yeah.
and Lacuna and Project Donut.
They're going to be doing a couple of panels, and they're going to be running demos of games all weekend. Kineticon is going to be, if nothing else, you can come to Kineticon, come to our panel room, and get awesome Geeknights front row crew, Luke Crane, Jared Sorensen stuff for the entire convention without cessation.
So even if Kineticon is no good, right? And I don't know how it's going to be. I have no, because Kineticon has been sort of iffy. The thing is, even though Kineticon is iffy, I'm not going to lie, the board game area there is always 100% awesome. They should just make that a convention in and of itself.
Kineticon's tabletop gaming is better than most tabletop gaming conventions I have been to.
And 2, there's a whole panel room that is, it's just us. So if you're a fan of us, you're listening to us, obviously. You can be safe in that room in the tabletop gaming area for the whole convention, all 3 days, and it'll be worth your while to go to Kineticon, and it'll also make us look really good if you come just for us and no other reason.
Plus, I will say this. We have gone to Kineticon for several years, and we have never failed to have a very good time.
No.
We're always a little bit leery ahead of time because the con always kind of puts it real close to the wire in terms of being ready to run. But it's always fun when we're there. And this year, you can think of this basically as the test run of what we're going to be doing at all the bigger conventions in years to come.
Yeah. Also, you might see us pass out from doing 11 panels. Won't that be entertaining?
So, things of the day. I have something very little here, very, very minor. It's not terribly important, but remember Mortal Kombat? It wasn't a good game. No one can claim it was actually a good game with a straight face.
It was not Mortal Kombat 2 was not a terrible fighting game.
Here's the thing.
It was a good,
It was not an objectively good game. It was an okay fighting game, but I had Street Fighter 2.
Well, it was a different kind of fighting game from Street Fighter 2.
Yes, it was a memorize the combos game.
What game isn't?
It was memorize the arbitrary, annoying, counterintuitive, not that fun combos game.
Yeah. It had its pluses and minuses.
It was also the jump up and backwards while kicking most of the time game.
Yeah, that was a very important maneuver, the cross-up kick.
But
jump over a guy and then kick him in the back of the head to start your combo.
Yep, or jump backwards while kicking, hopefully disrupting their attempt to jump forward around you and kick.
Yep. And also, you can beat the single player by just using the trip move over and over and over again, except against like 2 characters.
You can beat the majority of people in arcades. Did you hear that? Arcades. I played these games in an arcade.
This is pretty much the last triumph of the arcade with Street Fighter 2, Turbo, and Mortal Kombat 2.
Yep.
People were lining up in arcades to play these games, and then the home versions came out, and then the arcade died.
Mortal Kombat 3 was like the last arcade game. I went to an arcade. There was Mortal Kombat 3. Then all the arcades shut down like within a month, and that was it.
Yep.
But Mortal Kombat was important primarily because it was bloody and gory for the time, and it set a lot of precedents. It was the first time video games really, really, really shook up pop culture, and there was a lot of reaction.
Well, video games shook up pop culture, but they didn't shake it up because of violence.
Well, they had shaken it up for other reasons, but finally they shook it up because of violence in a way that even the slowest reporters figured out.
Yep.
But other than that, no, it wasn't a great game. But they used models to make the game. The game, it was motion capture and models.
Yeah, I mean, Street Fighter has always been, hand-drawn art to make all the characters and such. But in Mortal Kombat 2, they used motion capture and photography and stop motion, and even though it was low resolution, it looked really good, sort of the same way that Donkey Kong Country looked really good because the way they generated all the sprites for all the characters and animations and such.
But I have a picture for you of how they did that, and it is both interesting and a little bit disappointing to see this totally ghetto, but totally the same kind of way I would do that sort of thing set up.
Yeah.
Bonus points for the desk lamp taped to the candy tin that is self-held up by 2 books.
It's good stuff.
And it's Goro. You get to see Goro.
He has 4 arms.
I hated him so much.
I also have 4 arms.
Do you?
Yeah.
All right, what do you have for me?
You do too. So this is a video game. I can't. If you can read this page, it's a Japanese language page. I sort of hovered over all the links looking for a download. I couldn't find one. I don't know if it's downloadable. I don't know what the deal is at all.
Is it even real?
I think it's real, but I don't know how to play it or get it or what it runs on. But the game is called Symphony of the Blood, and I don't know why it's called Symphony of the Blood.
As I would say, a.k.a. Blood Symphony.
What the game is, right, is a Dojin game. It is a Tezuka Dojin game. A Tezuka Dojin fighting game in which there is a slew of Tezuka characters which you can select and then play a sort of Guilty Gears looking kind of fighting game with. So Blackjack versus Princess Knight versus Daddy
Unico.
Walrus versus Unico. I don't see Astro Boy in there.
He's got to be in there.
Yeah, versus, Hyakimaru versus who knows who, right? All sorts of, Tezuka characters.
It's pretty hardcore.
You can all you need. The thing of the day is just all these images in this website. This is a game that I want to play just because of the awesome novelty of it, and yeah, that's about it.
So, remember that sound?
Not until I just reminded myself of it like a few minutes ago.
That brought back a flood of memories. Green Wizard needs food badly, but Red Warrior shot the food.
You asshole.
I remember playing Gauntlet a lot.
You couldn't play to win, could you? You always said you just play to be an asshole.
We played it on the emulator at RIT, or actually I think we played it on a real NES a bunch of times too.
Yeah.
Because we had that NES that I won at...
I had the GameCube version also.
Yeah, we did, but I also had that NES that I won at OhioCon.
Oh, right. That's why we had extra NESs.
Yeah, we had 2 NESs as a result, but
Yeah.
Gauntlet was not a good game.
Well, let's talk about what Gauntlet is before we talk about why it's terrible.
Does anyone not know what Gauntlet is? Do we really need to start every video game show about a game that's more than like 2 years old being like, this was a game where Mario Brothers, you walk from right to left.
Well,
left to right.
Gauntlet was really something different. I mean, back in the day, you'd go to the arcade.
It was just Rogue, only it was real time.
Rogue was real time.
It was more real time.
I guess. I think the only difference between Gauntlet and Rogue really is that it was less complex than Rogue. You could have multiplayer, and everyone shot things, in sort of in an action RPG Zelda kind of way. Whereas in Rogue, you went up next to a bad guy and pushed fight.
Well, you could do that too. You could walk up to enemies and just push on them to kill them.
Yeah, but it wasn't cycle. Like Rogue wasn't exactly turn-based, but it was sort of cycles. It's like, to be fight, whereas in discrete units, whereas in Gauntlet, it would be basically the cycles were constantly rolling around. Even if you were just standing still, you would just take a whole shit ton of damage.
I remember renting Gauntlet. I never bought Gauntlet 1, but I'd rent it every now and then. Every weekend my parents would be like, you can rent one video game. And I would sometimes rent the same game more than once because if you rented the wrong game, you were fucked for the weekend.
Yep.
I rented some bad games in my time.
Oh, that sucks.
But Gauntlet 1, at least, I remember renting it and being fascinated with it, but at the same time, hating it.
See, I only ever played Gauntlet really in the arcades, right? So Gauntlet 1 in the arcade was something special back in its day because, first of all, 4 people could play it at once. And this was before Ninja Turtles or X-Men or The Simpsons, right? So that was a big deal. Second of all, it had actual voice coming out of the machine. It would say things, which is a big deal, right? I mean, Sinistar said things, but, it's like very few machines had that ability to talk to you.
See, Gauntlet was always in the arcade. I never played it because all I could always think was, I got Gauntlet at home. It's the same stupid game.
See, I had Gauntlet in the arcade before Gauntlet at home, so...
Gauntlet was at home.
And
pretty
also
early,
at home,
though.
you didn't have a 4 score.
Yeah, I did.
Shit.
And remember, that was Gauntlet 2.
I didn't know anyone with a 4 score.
Gauntlet 1 did not have the 4-player at home.
Well, see, there you go.
And 2, it was much shittier. Gauntlet 2 was the best that game got on the NES. Yeah. But Gauntlet 2, I had the 4 score. I would often play it with 4 people.
The thing I liked about Gauntlet 1 I think the reason I played it all in the arcade was sort of like the dungeon explory aspect of it. It's like the sort of maze action. And I always seem to like maze action for some reason.
See, it was weird. As a kid, when I didn't really understand how this stuff worked, I remember playing Gauntlet and thinking that the maps were so poorly put together and so glitchy and so crappy that I didn't feel like I was exploring anything. I felt like it was a race against the game glitching me to death.
Yeah, that's sort of true. The arcade was a little less glitchy than the NES.
Especially Gauntlet 2, where as far as I could tell, you'd get 5 or 6 levels in, and then it would just be random bullshit.
It was random. We just looked that up.
Yeah, but eventually you'd hit a level where there's just like, you just couldn't win. I'd start, and there's walls around me, and no secrets, and then I would die.
Well, the thing about Gauntlet, right, the reason it was primarily an arcade game is because basically you had health, and as you played, even if you didn't fight any bad guys, you just stood still, your health was constantly going down, and you could put in quarters to make your health go up. It was the ultimate quarter-munching designed game. It's like if you're playing Zelda and your hearts always went down, and you can make them go up by putting in a quarter. The only other way to make them go up was by touching food, but there was always a risk the food would get shot.
Of course, that aspect of it was what made it great at home and in the arcade, because you'd play for a while, and, you'd be trying to succeed, but eventually you'd get to that point where, game's not
even
that
if you're
fun.
playing perfectly and killing all the bad guys and getting all the treasures, there's not enough food to keep you alive, and it takes time to play it, and your health goes down.
But eventually,
and you're gonna die.
Eventually, Warrior takes the food that Wizard needed to survive, so Wizard doesn't save Warrior from death, and then Warrior pushes Wizard into the next 3 deaths. And then Wizard dies. And then Warrior dies.
Yeah, it's the way it's if you don't try to win, that's what happens.
Well, the thing is, Scott always wanted to play the Wizard. The wussy-ass Wizard.
Because the Wizard could shoot, and if the Wizard used the magic, he cleared out a lot more bad guys.
But the Warrior was so strong, and while he was slower, Warrior could always push the Wizard. So we'd play for like a half hour at RIT.
So that's another thing that was bullshit, right? It's like, okay, the Warrior is strong. He's always strong, right? The Warrior is never in a bad situation. The Wizard...
Warrior can be in a bad situation.
Yeah, but the Wizard has this magic that's wicked powerful and is the only way to get rid of death if he shows up.
Yeah.
But if... the Grim Reaper, I'm sorry. But if you only can cast a magic spell if you have a potion.
Wasn't it just... I thought it was just called Death.
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
I'm pretty sure it was called
But
Death.
if you get the potion...
Well, it was called It, and Death was called Death.
Yes, if you use up all your potions, the Wizard is completely useless because he's now just sort of, doesn't have magic. So if Death shows up and you don't have any potions... You just have to run away.
I just remember this one time Scott and I were playing. No one else wanted to play because I had a 4-score. I haven't brought it to RIT. We just didn't really use it.
I don't remember seeing it.
It was there. I've got it around the house somewhere.
I've never seen it.
I owned every 4-score game.
I've never seen this 4-score. Anyway,
They
continue.
were almost all terrible except for the racing game.
Yep.
But, we were playing for like a half hour, 20. I forget exactly how
Do you
long.
have the 4-score for the original Game Boy?
No.
I remember...
I never knew anyone when I was young who was cool who owned a Game Boy other than me.
One time...
Everyone owned Game Gears.
One time when I was on a field trip in elementary school, someone had the Game Boy 4-player, and they were playing that F1 game.
See, I was desperate. I was desperate for most of my childhood to find anyone cool. And by cool, I define that as anyone who owned either a combination of a Game Boy and Hunt for the Red October and the link cable, or Crystal Warriors, a Game Gear, and the link cable. Because those games both had awesome multiplayer that I never in my life was able to play. Not once.
Why didn't your brother get another one and then...
We had one Game Boy and one Game Gear in my household.
Get another Game Boy.
We didn't have money. I was in like middle school.
You could have gotten 2 Game Boys instead of the Game Gear.
Nah, we wanted the Game Gear more. We got the Game Boy
You could have
later.
gotten 2 Game Gears then.
Nah, because we couldn't afford 2 Game Gears.
Anyway.
Plus, I did not realize that Hunt for the Red October would exist.
Anyway.
Yeah, but at one point, we're walking, and Scott's behind me, and this Death is chasing us. We don't have any potions. And I'm like, Scott's like, go, 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 but I'm slower than him. And he starts to go around me to leave me to my fate with Death. And I realize, wait a minute. I'm a warrior. So I stood in the middle, wouldn't let him get past me, and waited for death, sweet death, to eat itself on Scott, and then we continued.
And there was nowhere to run.
And then for the next 5 minutes, I proceeded to push Scott into every death we came across.
Yeah, for some reason, the warrior can push the wizard, and the wizard can't push back. So if there wasn't like a place to run away to, I really had no choice in where I went. And if I didn't have any magic, death would always come and get me.
The game was basically, green wizard needs food badly. Red warrior shot the food. Red warrior shot the food. Green wizard is about to die. Red warrior shot the food.
You couldn't play to win, could you?
There's no way to win. That game goes on forever. It's a stupid
Gauntlet
game.
2 goes on forever.
Yes.
But the other gauntlets are beatable.
Gauntlet 1, you can actually beat. Go online, look on YouTube. You'll see what it ends with. And let me tell you, that is not worth it. Good God.
No, but actually, in the arcade, when, later on, there was a Gauntlet Legends in the arcade. It was actually a 3D Gauntlet game. The game itself wasn't 3D. It still played 2D, but 3D graphics.
That game had all
3D
the
character models.
all the lack of fun of the original Gauntlet, but without any of the charm and with added complexity.
Well, it was weird because I played it in the arcade, and for some reason it was fun then, and the thing was in the arcade you could save your game. So I saved my game on the local arcade machine, and I would go back and I would play it every once in a while and load up my guy.
Yeah, remember, this
and he would level up and stuff.
That was before games like Initial D were really available, where you had like cards or something you could save your game.
Yeah, this, you just put in your initials and it loaded up your game.
A bunch of games. Police 911 had that too, didn't it?
I don't remember, maybe.
That was later, though. But anyway, I forgot where I was going with that.
No, so then we got this Gauntlet Legends, the same game for the N64. And that had 4 controllers. So me and my brother and 2 friends, we'd always play that. And it was like wicked fun. And then, so when I got the GameCube at RIT, I bought Gauntlet, the next Gauntlet for the GameCube. And for some reason, it wasn't fun anymore. No one wanted to play it. I don't know what it was.
You wanted to play it with people.
Because I remembered having such good times with it in high school on the N64. So I figured, I'll have the same good times in the GameCube.
Well, I remember you were like, I got it. I was like, okay. And we sat down to play it. And 5 minutes later, I realized that all I was doing was holding right and A at the same time, and occasionally I would hold up and A.
Well, it had Robotron controls, so you were shooting with one stick and moving with the other stick.
Didn't matter at all. You basically just walked and shot. There was no puzzle. There was nothing.
Oh, there were puzzles.
At least the original Gauntlet was so crappy just due to the limitations of the technology that you forgave it for the fact that it was basically not a game.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, now I sort of realize, the badness of Gauntlet, and it's hard to play it now.
I was into the arcade game, though, for a little while at RIT. Because when we first got to RIT, I remember they had the arcade was free. You could go in, swipe your card, and get infinite tokens. So I got infinite tokens, and we kept playing Gauntlet, and I saved my game, and I was leveling up and doing all that stuff. And one day, like a week later, I went into the arcade, and I swiped my card, and I saw that it had debited money from my Flex account. And I was like, what? And I went up to the guy, and he's like, why did this take money from me? And he was like, you thought free play would last forever? And I never played Gauntlet again.
Yeah.
It was basically worth 0 to me.
But if it's 0, you'll play it.
Of course, that was not anymore. Back then I would. Remember, RIT was the time in our lives when we had infinite free time but no money.
Yeah.
Now I have infinite money but no free time.
It's strange now that I'm beginning to see like the connection between games like Rogue, NetHack, right, Gauntlet, and Diablo. And they're all sort of like these similar games. It's all about there's a dungeon, you're exploring the dungeon, right? And you're simultaneously fighting the bad guys. And that's real, and getting treasure. And there's sort of a maze to it. And it's weird because it's like, you think the D&D based game is more like the MMO style, right? But it's strange how the D&D, the fundamentals of D&D sort of diverge into like these sort of different gameplay types in the video game area.
Well, I mean, remember the Dungeons and Dragons arcade game?
Well, that was just a side scroll and beat 'em up.
Yeah,
that
the thing
also
is, though,
had some elements of D&D.
That game was actually, for its time, kind of awesome.
It was an alright game. You had some decisions to make of where to go.
Yep.
You had lots of items you could use. You could turn undead infinity times, and it was awesome. And you could get secret doors if you opened them up. And
it required some modicum of teamwork.
Some. You had to set the troll on fire.
Yeah, it wasn't a great game, but it was better than Gauntlet.
Yeah, it was at least really entertaining. I remember playing that one at the movie theater a lot.
Yep. I remember, oh my God, after a Science Olympiad competition, I was in like 7th grade, and we stopped at this pizza joint on the way home, the whole team. And they had the D&D machine. It was the cocktail cabinet version.
Oh, wow. I've never seen such a thing.
So us kids stayed there for 2 hours to the chagrin of our parents who wouldn't, or, they couldn't make us leave. And we took turns, and we were almost at the end of the game, and someone,
ran out of money?
I won't say who, someone, it was me, bumped into the power cable that was actually barely plugged in, but none of us noticed the whole time. So I was playing, and I kind of bumped into it with my foot, and it fell out, and the game stopped. And there was this silence, followed by a cry that I've never heard since.
That's a good story.
No one knew it was me. I never fessed up.
You know, that would be a lot worse if it was a Gauntlet game and you're on like level 200 something.
Oh, my God. Man, there's that YouTube video of a perfect score run of Gauntlet 2.
Wow.
I watched the end of part 23 of 23. I also found a question someone asked online of, does Gauntlet 2 end? And no one answered it.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. Gauntlet is strange in that it has some things that like were invented in Gauntlet that were really good. I mean, like the bad guy spigot, they sort of invented that in Gauntlet.
Yep. Plus, the game just for a young kid in that era of game, it was a game that could only exist in the form it did in the era that it did. But at the same time, games that are fundamentally the same but just have. Basically, they add a bunch of fluff on top of what is basically just Gauntlet.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays,
popular.
I can't tell you how many times a new game comes out, and I'm like, oh, that's just Gauntlet. You know?
And it is. Like, it's not even like, oh, you're just saying that. It's just like
the only difference
Gauntlet.
between Diablo and Gauntlet is that Diablo doesn't have the Robotron control style. It has the click on the bad guy a whole bunch of times control style.
Plus,
That's really the only difference.
Gauntlet 4 even had go into town and buy shit.
Yeah. Yeah, it did.
But Gauntlet also had a little bit of that Four Swords element, especially Gauntlet 2, because every now and then a level would start and it would say things like, your shots hurt the other players, wink, wink.
Yeah.
And like if a power-up was there, only one person could get it. Plus, the brilliance of it.
Yeah, it was sort of like this really unpolished, I mean, basically, there's the new Mario game coming out for the Wii that they're all pushing now, right? That they promoted big at E3.
Four Marios.
Yeah, they're talking all about, the competitive cooperative where you're cooperating to beat the game, but you're also competing to see which of you is better than the other.
Never mind the fact that Nintendo...
They're acting like they just invented it, but even though they invented it with Four Swords.
And Crystal Chronicles.
Right? And, well, Crystal Chronicles didn't really have the competitive part. It was just cooperative.
It had the competitive part in that everyone had their goal, their secret goal. That was
right, you're right, yeah.
Yep, and you got items based on that at the end of every mission.
Yeah, but, Gauntlet sort of had that only unpolished, in that, you were cooperating to beat the game, but you were competing, you had score, first of all, who got the high score, and you wanted to get more food. You wanted to take food away from other people so that, you would live longer and have to pay less quarters.
Plus,
and
death would come, and if you didn't have potions... Someone was getting it. Someone was taking one for the team.
So you want that to be someone else and not you.
Yes, which usually means...
And if someone else is going to grab the food, shoot that food. You don't want them to eat the food because then they're basically getting free money in terms of quarters. Yeah, they don't have to put into the machine.
Can.
Exactly. And that's, what Gauntlet was about.
Wasn't that I don't know. The game is really at the core of a lot of popular games today. And it's not like I've realized this now. I've always realized this, but the reason I'm so disillusioned with a lot of gaming today and the reason I look at a lot of new games and I play 5 minutes and I'm immediately done with them, just can't enjoy them at all, is that almost every game that comes out is at its core identical to a game I already played the fullness of when I was like 11.
Yep. And Gauntlet is often that game.
Yep.
I mean, just try to name some of the games that are basically Gauntlet.
World of Warcraft?
Oh!
No, World of Warcraft is beyond that. World of Warcraft
Yeah, it's definitely in the mud. It's sort of like, there are all these sort of things that evolved from the D&D based video game.
Yeah, but look, muds were stateful. Gauntlet was stateless.
Diablo, you had the mud genre,
What?
you had the Gauntlet genre, you had the sort of Dungeon Master Gold Box kind of genre in another direction. There are all these sort of different kinds of play styles that came out of the D&D idea. And Gauntlet is just one of those.
Yep. I don't know. I think we're done. I don't know what else I can say about Gauntlet other than Green Wizard shot the food.
Yeah.
That
yeah.
voice was so awesome when I was a kid coming out of my NES.
Well, I mean, it's like even though the game is bad, that voice is still famous. I mean, you know, it's like you think about it. Back in the day, so few games had digitized voice, and those that did, anything that the digitized voice said became famous. I mean, everything Sinistar said is famous.
Run,
Run, coward.
Surround castle to stay alive.
Yeah, I mean,
Good job, Red Commander.
any video game from that era that talked, because so few of them talked, everything it said became like a famous quote.
I remember when I bought...
But now video games have like full voice acting and...
I remember when I bought TIE Fighter. I didn't even have X-Wing, but it was the first like big iron computer game that I bought as opposed to pirated.
Yep.
And I also didn't have a working sound card for a long time up until that point. So I got TIE Fighter, and that MIDI of Star Wars starts playing. And I'm thinking like, yeah, this is awesome, this is awesome, this is awesome. And then Darth Vader looks at me and says, signal Vice Admiral Thrawn to have his TIE squadron sent immediately. And I was like, oh my God, it talked. That game talking was like the biggest thing ever. And now, you know, one thing I can say too, the voice acting in a lot of early games was a lot better than the voice acting now. TIE Fighter sounded exactly like people in Star Wars.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, I'm talking about things like Wing Commander, which is just bad acting, period.
Yeah,
all around.
yeah. Well, maybe it's just TIE Fighter had good voice acting and nothing else did.
Oh, you know what they added on goodoldgames.com?
What'd they add?
All of the Pandora directed, what's his Tex Murphy
Oh, Tex
game.
Murphy. Those games sucked, but they were
all
also
of them.
awesome.
They added all of them.
Wait, the original ones?
Yeah,
Or
all of them.
what about the multimedia remakes, Under a Killing Moon?
Yeah, it's all of them.
Oh my God, Under a Killing Moon. I played that with my 2X CD-ROM on my multimedia PC.
Yeah. All right, I don't think we got much more to say, and I want to eat dinner.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Odeo. Just click the link that says Send Me an Odeo on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.